Hello and welcome. My name is Ivan, and for 2 decades I have been studying healthy eating and helping older adults understand diet, metabolism, and the prevention of age-related diseases. Today, I want to share some important information that can protect you from serious health problems and even save your life. We will discuss 6 types of fruits that seem completely harmless, but in fact can be dangerous for those over 60 years old. Even those who have considered these fruits to be extremely healthy all their lives sometimes encounter complications that become much more serious with age. First of all, I would like to emphasize that all information that will be presented is advisory in nature. I do not make diagnoses over the internet and do not give clear prescriptions. Any serious changes in nutrition or adjustments to medication should be supervised by an experienced doctor. Having extensive experience working with older people, I can firmly say that ignorance of some nutritional features can lead to serious consequences. Although many are accustomed to considering fruits as the best source of vitamins and fiber, there are certain nuances that are worth knowing and which we will analyze in detail in today's video. We will consider 6 fruits that are dangerous to the health of people over 60. Why exactly over 60? Because with age, significant changes occur in the body that affect the ability to digest certain foods. With age, metabolism slows down, and the performance of organs and systems such as the kidneys, liver, and gastrointestinal tract decreases. This means that substances that were easily excreted or absorbed without difficulty in younger years can now accumulate and cause unwanted effects. As a result, the likelihood of developing diseases such as hypertension, diabetes, and chronic renal failure increases. The risk of unwanted interactions between food and drugs also increases. It is important to understand that there is no strict prohibition that would require completely excluding 6 specific fruits from the diet. The point is to know their features, be able to correctly include them in the diet, and notice signs of possible danger in time. This is what we will talk about. I will try to provide the most detailed information, supported by links to scientific medical research and real-life cases of patients, whose names I have, of course, changed to maintain confidentiality. So let's start with a review of those very insidious fruits. The first on our list is carambola, an exotic fruit that attracts the eye with its shape. When cut, it resembles a star, so it is often used to decorate dishes. At first glance, how can such a beautiful fruit harm? However, everything is not so simple. The main danger of carambola is that it contains a neurotoxin that can negatively affect the nervous system. When you're young and your kidneys are functioning perfectly, your body usually gets rid of these toxins quickly. But if your kidneys aren't working properly, the toxic load can build up, causing harm to your health. As a person ages, kidney function declines, even if it is subclinical, meaning without obvious symptoms. However, this condition can lead to serious complications such as confusion, seizures, and in rare situations, even to a coma. One of the most memorable cases in my practice was the story of Borislav, an active man of 68 years old who had been fond of cooking all his life and loved to experiment with different recipes. He began to regularly prepare cocktails based on an exotic fruit, not suspecting that he already had the initial signs of chronic kidney disease. The first symptoms were very vague and nonspecific. It is for this reason that many elderly people are warned to be careful with the Cambodian fruit, especially if there is even the slightest doubt about the functioning of the kidneys. If you like trying unusual fruits and want to find an alternative, pay attention to pitahaya, often called dragon fruit or Asian pear. Now such products are increasingly appearing in our stores. They attract attention with their original appearance, are rich in vitamins and minerals, but have the same degree of toxicity. Do not forget to regularly examine your kidney function, especially after 60 years, because even small deviations in filtration can significantly affect the body's reaction to familiar dishes. The next fruit, which seems to be completely harmless, is grapes. We are used to considering it useful since childhood, because we often heard, "Eat grapes, you will be healthy." In fact, grapes contain many vitamins and antioxidants, but they are very sweet and have a high glycemic index. This is a particularly concerning issue for people with type 2 diabetes, which is common among older people, according to the World Health Organization. The number of people with prediabetes and diabetes is growing every year. After reaching age 60, the risk increases significantly. The difficulty is not only in the sugar content of grapes, but also in the fact that older people may have trouble controlling their portions. Wine is easy to drink by the handful, without noticing how many calories and sugar are entering the body. In addition, grapes can slow down the digestion process and cause bloating. The most unexpected thing is the risk of choking. It would seem that as children we happily ate grapes and did not think about it, but with age the swallowing reflex weakens, and the round, smooth surface of the berries increases the danger. Borislav said that he consulted a family where a 72-year-old relative thought grapes were an ideal snack for replenishing energy. But his son began to notice that even small portions of fruit provoked sharp jumps in blood glucose levels. Attempts to explain to the elderly Borislav that grapes can contain too much sugar were not understood for a long time because it is a fruit. After consultations with an endocrinologist and a nutritionist, the man significantly reduced the amount of grapes in his diet, which helped stabilize his sugar levels. Doctors recommended replacing some of the grapes with a handful of raspberries or currants, which contain less sugar and more fiber. Therefore, if you have problems with your glucose levels, you should carefully review your grape consumption. If you have problems with your blood glucose level or risk a sharp increase, it is recommended to limit your consumption of grapes or eat them with great caution. For example, you can cut each berry into 2 or 4 pieces and combine them with protein-rich foods. This will help reduce the body's glycemic response, and such a simple action can really save a life. Now let's move on to the third fruit, orange. Everyone knows that oranges are an excellent source of vitamin C, which supports the body's immune system. At first glance, it seems that the benefits from them are only positive. However, in older people, citrus fruits, including oranges, can cause increased acidity of gastric juice, especially if there are problems with digestion. This is especially true in cases where a person has gastroesophageal reflux disease. In addition, oranges can interact with some medications, which is important to consider. This is especially true for drugs used to control blood pressure, cholesterol levels, and some antidepressants. One of my friends, Borislav, who took calcium channel blockers to reduce high blood pressure, did not suspect that citrus fruits can change the activity of liver enzymes responsible for processing drugs. As a result, the effectiveness of the pills significantly worsened. His blood pressure often fluctuated, and he himself associated this with changeable weather and stress. Later, when he changed his diet and reduced his consumption of oranges, his health improved noticeably. As for the teeth of older people, enamel becomes thinner and more vulnerable over time. Frequent consumption of highly acidic orange juice can damage the surface of the teeth and cause their gradual destruction. Therefore, it is worth being careful with citrus fruits and taking measures to protect teeth from excessive exposure to acid. Thus, despite the benefits of oranges, their consumption should be moderate and take into account the individual characteristics of the body, especially in adulthood. Citrus fruits can affect teeth, causing increased sensitivity and increasing the likelihood of tooth decay. Dentists advise rinsing your mouth after eating such fruits, and it is best to wait 20 to 30 minutes and only then gently brush your teeth. If you are taking vital medications, it is recommended to consult a doctor to rule out contraindications to regularly including oranges in your diet. As an alternative, you can choose kiwi, bell peppers, or strawberries, which contain a sufficient amount of vitamin C, but do not create such a strong acid load as citrus fruits. Avocado has become incredibly popular in recent years due to its reputation as a superfood. It is added to salads, toasts, and smoothies, considered an almost universal remedy for improving health. Of course, avocados are rich in healthy fats, vitamins, and minerals. However, older people should be careful for several reasons. Firstly, avocados are high in calories. The average fruit contains about 250 kilocalories, and if you do not follow a diet, this can lead to weight gain, which puts additional stress on your joints, heart, and blood vessels. Secondly, some older people may suddenly develop an allergic reaction to avocados associated with a cross-allergy to latex, since the fruit contains proteins similar in structure to latex. Finally, avocados can affect the effectiveness of some medications, disrupting their proper action. A decrease in blood viscosity is especially significant in cardiovascular diseases, and this relationship is not always obvious. I had a patient, Borislav, who was prescribed warfarin to prevent thrombosis. He followed a healthy diet and considered avocado to be an almost ideal product. Because of this, the dosage of the drug had to be frequently adjusted, since the test showed unstable blood counts. In the end, he was advised to limit himself to only a small amount of avocado, no more than a quarter of the fruit, and only after a thorough examination and consultation. This approach had a beneficial effect on his health and helped normalize the interaction between warfarin and diet. Fifth place in our rating is occupied by watermelon, which for many is associated with summer. This sweet and juicy fruit seems completely harmless and is able to quench thirst and saturate with vitamins at the same time. However, especially in old age, watermelon can create unexpected complications. Firstly, it has a fairly high glycemic index, which provokes a significant and rapid jump in blood sugar levels. Secondly, excessive consumption of watermelon, rich in water and potassium, can worsen the health of people with kidney or heart problems. Particular caution should be exercised by those taking diuretics, often prescribed for hypertension, heart failure, or kidney disease, as watermelon can cause fluid imbalance in the body. The stress on the cardiovascular system from excess electrolytes and blood pressure fluctuations can be dangerous. 1 or 2 slices of watermelon are unlikely to cause serious harm, but people often eat many of them at once during the summer. This type of eating habits can lead not just to troubles, but to a sharp deterioration in health. There was an example with Borislav, an elderly man who carefully monitored his health and took medications for high blood pressure and edema. Coming to the doctor, he decided that a fresh watermelon from the garden would help replenish fluid in hot weather, but this caused an attack of shortness of breath and a significant increase in pressure. He had to seek emergency care. During the consultation, the cardiologist found out that the cause was an excessive dose of watermelon, which, interacting with medications, provoked an imbalance. Fortunately, Borislav quickly recovered, but now he eats watermelon in small portions, distributing them throughout the day, and strictly controls his blood pressure and well-being. The 6th fruit on our list with possible danger is papaya. This exotic fruit contains the enzymes papain and quinine, which have a positive effect on protein digestion in some people. However, it is important to be careful in the elderly, as papaya can negatively interact with medications, such as antibiotics, anticoagulants, and drugs for regulating blood sugar levels. Like avocado, papaya can cause allergic reactions due to similar protein components. It is also worth noting that eating unripe papaya can aggravate the situation. Papaya can be beneficial, but only with a competent approach and consultation with a doctor. Stomach and intestinal irritation is a common problem among older people. Many experience increased acidity, bloating, and other unpleasant symptoms. The additional enzymes contained in papaya can make the situation worse. I recall a case when relatives of an elderly woman came to me and decided to buy healing papaya on the advice of the internet, without consulting with their gastroenterologist. As a result, the patient's condition worsened. The signs of gastritis became more pronounced, urgent medical care was required, and papaya was excluded from the diet. Of course, each case is individual. Papaya can be beneficial for someone, but you need to consider all the risks and discuss them with your doctor in advance. We have looked at several potentially problematic fruits: star fruit, grapes, avocado, watermelon, and papaya. The question arises, should you completely give up these fruits? The answer is no. The point is that food in old age should be chosen consciously, taking into account the unique characteristics of your health condition, the presence of chronic diseases and medications taken. If you have any doubts or are undergoing treatment that may interact with food, you should consult with your doctor. Let's sum it up and highlight the key recommendations. First, if you are over 60 and have been diagnosed with chronic renal failure, hypertension, or diabetes, you should pay close attention to sweet and exotic fruits. They may contain an increased amount of sugar, potassium, or special enzymes that the body may not be able to handle. First, it is important to understand how to eat fruits properly and safely. Second, always learn how certain foods can affect the absorption of medications. Sometimes, even seemingly harmless drinks like orange juice can change the level of drugs in the blood. Third, control portion sizes, as the body needs fewer calories and carbohydrates with age. Therefore, the amount of fruit eaten should be limited. It is recommended not to exceed one small portion per day for the 6 fruits listed, and sometimes they should be consumed only from time to time. Fourth, carefully monitor your own reactions. If swelling, abdominal pain, digestive disorders, or blood pressure surges occur after eating any fruit, this product is probably not suitable for you or requires dietary restrictions. Finally, remember that although fruits are healthy, they cannot completely replace other sources of vitamins and minerals. Nutrition in old age should be balanced and include fats, carbohydrates, and microelements. Fruits are best perceived as an addition or dessert, but not as the main part of the menu. On the safer side, unless there are strict contraindications, you can include berries such as blueberries, currants, and raspberries. These foods tend to have less sugar and more antioxidants, which help maintain cardiovascular health. Fruits with a low glycemic index such as apples, pears, and grapefruit are also suitable for the same purposes, provided that you do not have dental problems and do not overindulge. Caution should be exercised and a doctor should be consulted when taking medication, especially when it comes to kiwi. This fruit is useful for increasing vitamin C levels, and for those who seek variety with exotic flavors, there are milder options, such as pitahaya. A little mangosteen or coconut will not hurt either if consumed wisely. I want to emphasize that the key to a long and healthy life is not only avoiding potentially harmful fruits, but also increasing your own awareness. Do not mindlessly assume that all plant products and natural substances are completely safe. More than 20 years of practice have convinced me that a personalized approach to nutrition can work wonders. Many people experience a decrease in blood pressure, a stabilization of blood sugar levels, and an improvement in overall well-being. All this is possible only with the right combination of products and taking into account the individual state of the body. I sincerely believe that the information in this video will help you and your loved ones avoid unpleasant surprises and maintain health for many years. Pay attention to your body's signals, don't be afraid to consult with professionals, and remember, even small changes in your diet can significantly improve your quality of life. If you found this episode useful, be sure to share it with your friends and family. Perhaps someone needs these tips right now and will be able to avoid complications from the wrong choice of fruits. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next videos. To consolidate the result, it is very important to always have a list of chronic diseases and medications that you take daily at hand. This will help control the condition and avoid unwanted consequences. Sometimes a dietitian and nutritionist sees that some fruits may be dangerous for you. For example, when taking medications for high blood pressure, It is very important to monitor the concentration of potassium and sodium in the blood, as well as pay attention to the amount of liquid consumed. In case of carbohydrate metabolism disorders, the glycemic index of foods is of great importance. In addition, with age, a person may develop new allergic reactions. What the body previously tolerated without problems in adulthood can cause a skin rash or even difficulty breathing. Remember that proper nutrition in old age is based not only on a cautious approach to certain fruits, but also on the general principle of variety. Do not get hung up on any one product, no matter how healthy it is. Be sure to include seasonal vegetables, high-quality protein sources, whole grains and dairy products in your diet if you are not lactose intolerant. Your task is to support your body, provide it with all the necessary nutrients, and not to strictly limit yourself. At the same time, do not indulge all your gastronomic preferences. Find the golden mean. I wish each of you good health, a clear mind, and active longevity. Eat wisely, monitor your own well-being, and always strive for knowledge and practice to go together.